It is commonly accepted that something that is less money is of poorer quality. Is there a difference between brand name and generic medications? I'm Mike, your pharmacist, and in this video, we will learn about the similarities and the differences between brand and generic medication. Hit the subscribe button below to stay up to date on health education topics like this one. You've probably wondered, why do medications have different names and why are they so complicated? Well, let's find out. Medications actually have 3 different names that you should understand, but you don't necessarily have to know. First and foremost, there is the chemical name. First, researchers isolate or synthesize a molecule and give it a chemical name. This name is based on the elemental composition of a drug. For example, warfarin has a chemical name of, well, this long thing. This is the actual elemental composition of the drug. But it's a mouthful, it's too complex to say. So the drug is given a generic name, which is warfarin. If a drug successfully completes all clinical trials and is allowed to be given to patients, the innovator drug company creates a brand name so that they can market it to the public. The brand name of warfarin is Coumadin. In order to understand the difference between brand and generic medications and to determine which one is best for you, we will look at the drug production process from its innovation to its sale in pharmacies. First, a drug is synthesized or isolated to treat an ailment. If there is hope that this medication can treat or cure a certain condition, an innovator drug company, these are companies like Pfizer, Novartis, or Merck, they apply for a patent. These generally last about 20 years. In that time, the company needs to do clinical trials. And if the drug is proven to be safe and effective by the FDA or Health Canada, it can be sold in pharmacies. Now, until that patent expires, they have exclusivity on that particular molecule. It's essentially a temporary monopoly on a particular drug to help companies recuperate their debt from clinical trials. Because governments want to encourage new drug development and production, these patents exist. The duration of these patents are important in understanding the difference between brand and generic medications. Let's look at the clinical trials more closely to understand the cost and time associated with the development of an innovator drug. First, there are preclinical trials. Here, a drug is tested on animals to show it can be used safely in humans. If a drug is deemed safe, then it undergoes 3 major trials. This process generally takes a decade. The first phase of a trial determines the safety of the drug. This usually requires about 20 to 80 people. If successful, it moves on to phase 2. This determines the effectiveness of a drug and usually requires hundreds of patients with a certain disease or condition. Moving on to phase 3, it's used to gather more information on the drug and on the safety and effectiveness in different populations. This phase requires thousands of patients and takes the longest. With the information gathered, it is sent to the governing bodies, either the FDA or Health Canada, for approval. If approved, the brand name drug company can sell and market this drug with exclusivity until the patent runs out. Generally, they have 20 years before their patent runs out, but most drugs take a decade or more before they are approved. Now, after that patent ends, generic companies take the formulation and manufacture the drug with the same dosage, with the same intended use, same effect, same side effect profile, same route of administration, same risks, and same safety and strength. In other words, generic drugs have the exact same effect as their brand name counterparts. Generic products, like no-name products on grocery store shelves, are often characterized as being of poorer quality than the brand name product. Generic drugs are not like no-name potato chips. Generic drugs go through rigorous studies to prove that they are bioequivalent, meaning that it has the same drug, same dose, and same route of administration before being put on the market. The only difference between a generic and a brand name drug are the excipients. These are binders, fillers, food coloring, or flavoring. They are not exactly the same, but they work the exact same way. Drugs like warfarin are available in doses as small as 1 milligram. 1 milligram is no more than a few grains of salt. To make a pill, the active ingredient, which is the 1 milligram of warfarin, needs fillers. These fillers can be starch or cellulose. They're used to bulk up the tablet. The difference between fillers is essentially the only thing that is different between a brand name and generic product. They can also have different flavoring or different coloring, but that's about it. Generic drugs cost a fraction of the price of brand name products because generic drug companies don't have all the expenses associated with researching. Brand name drugs are so expensive because when you pay for a brand name product, you're paying for all the research. Not just the research for that drug, but also for the failed clinical trials that never went through. You're paying for the marketing, you're paying for the fancy packaging, the commercials, and the pharmaceutical reps. The pills themselves cost pennies to manufacture. Are generic drugs just as effective as brand name drugs? The answer is simply yes, yes they are. Now there are exceptions. There are drugs that have a very low therapeutic index. This means that minute variations of the drug availability in the body can cause decreased effectiveness and increased side effects in some people. An example of a drug with a low therapeutic index is levothyroxine or Synthroid or Altroxin. This is a medication that is essentially an exogenous form of thyroid hormone. Small variations of the concentration of this drug in the body can cause serious side effects. So generally, we don't suggest switching between brands in this drug. But in 99% of the scenarios, the brand is interchangeable with the generic with no issues. But still, people may complain that they get more side effects from a generic drug or feel like the generic drug isn't working as well. That is a placebo effect. You've probably seen studies where participants are given a product where the no-name brand and the brand label are switched. Now, when they put the brand name label on the no-name product, the participation satisfaction goes up drastically, even though they're consuming the no-name product. Innovator drug companies do a wonderful job of marketing their product. Their marketers create brand loyalty, keeping customers buying the brand name product even though it can be purchased significantly cheaper. They did a study in New Zealand where they put brand name labels on placebo painkillers. The second group of participants got the active painkiller. The result? The placebo pill prompted as much headache relief as tablets containing the painkiller ibuprofen. Then they put the generic label on the placebo pill and gave it to patients. But this time, it did not have the same effect. Scientists have known about the placebo effect for a long time, in which some people feel better if they think they are getting an actual medication. In fact, having a brand name label made a placebo tablet work as well as an active painkiller. Branding seems to increase the placebo effect associated with the treatment. This is probably because people associate branding with higher quality and expect that they will work better. Ask yourself, last time you were in the pharmacy buying Tylenol, did you buy acetaminophen or Tylenol? These are two products with the exact same active ingredient. The only difference is the box and the fillers in the tablet. Yet a majority of people will pay twice as much for the brand name product. Now, I hope this video can help you choose less expensive medications guilt-free. There are very few things in life where you can get the same quality for a cheaper price. So take advantage. I'm Mike, your pharmacist. I hope you found this video informative. Stay tuned for more health education videos by hitting the subscribe button.